It's an oligarch, which, by the way, I've never met one. They seem nice. Or that Ambassador Kislyak. But he did make a dissemination for the first time between him and the others.
Apparently, some of Michael Flynn's business associates have been subpoenaed by the Eastern District, U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. And their investigation is looking at exactly the deal that Mr. Flynn had with Turkey when he was getting something like $500,000 and what he might have done on their behalf. By the way, this Russia thing yesterday hit a crescendo that I had not seen before. You know, Maxine Waters, who clearly has said some...
She will not vote for Donald Trump if he runs for re-election.
Yeah, probably not. She said yesterday that the expression lock her up and crooked Hillary, which we heard a lot during the campaign, who came up with those? Did you hear this?
No. What'd she say?
You know, because we had heard lock her up in unison from a lot of people at the Trump events, and crooked Hillary was from Donald Trump, right? According to her, Vladimir Putin. These are expressions that were created and developed by people at the Kremlin.
Unbelievable.
So those expressions, according to Maxine Waters, are from Russia.
And by the way, this is the same woman who said, Jason Chaffetz, is he retiring because of his links to Russia? Jason Chaffetz. He's like, I've never been to Russia.
Answer the question,
I'm from Utah.
Let us know what you think. Send your comments in. Are you, like the dials are showing, are you so sick of the Russia narrative? Would you rather see...
Can I vote on this?
Yeah.
Right.
I know. God. It's all we talk about every morning.
Well, it would be one thing if there was some there, but we just heard Dianne Feinstein from
who is a liberal from California.
Yeah. And she says there's absolutely no evidence that she has seen, and she's one of the top Democrats in the Senate. She hasn't seen anything.
That's what's so crazy.
Well,
How did we get here?
Time Magazine has the White House covered up in a cartoonish
it's turning
way.
into
the Kremlin.
to the
Red Square.
Red Square, the Saint Basil's Cathedral. Is
Something
that what
like that.
Yeah, some important person.
All right. Meanwhile, it is about 7:10 here in New York City, and Jillian joins us with a big news story out of Sweden.
That's right. Good Friday morning to you guys, to you at home as well. The top prosecutor in Sweden dropping the rape case against Julian Assange. Assange ran off to Ecuador's embassy in London back in 2012 to escape extradition to Sweden, where he's accused of sex crimes against 2 women. He has been holed up there ever since. Assange is afraid if he's arrested, he might ultimately be extradited to the United States and charged for leaking hundreds of thousands of secret documents. Last month, President Trump said he would support any decision by the Justice Department to charge Assange. Keep you posted. The man accused of plowing his car into Times Square, hurting 22 people and killing a young girl, was high on drugs and is charged with murder.
We got a car running people over. We got multiple people run over.
Video shows Richard Rojas, a Navy vet, driving into a crowd, his car going airborne before hitting a row of steel barriers, finally stopping him. This chilling video and picture showing Rojas trying to get away from the scene. You can see him right there as a mother grips her 2 young children in the background. A bouncer working at Planet Hollywood near the scene, now a hero, tackling Rojas, stopping him from hurting anyone else. 18-year-old Alyssa Ellsman, a tourist from Michigan, killed in front of her little sister. Rojas tested positive for drugs. He was hearing voices in his head and thought the world was coming to an end. Well, the president could make a huge announcement about the future of the FBI at any time.
We're very close to an FBI director. Is Mr. Lieberman, Senator Lieberman, one of your colleagues, sir? He is.
Former vice presidential candidate and Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman, one of 4 people interviewed at the White House this week. The president not giving specifics on when he'll announce his choice to replace James Comey. I never thought she was a great candidate. Former Vice President Joe Biden tearing into Hillary Clinton's failed bid for the White House at a conference in Las Vegas. Biden revealing, quote, no man or woman should announce for the presidency unless they genuinely believe that at that moment in the nation's history, they are the most qualified person to deal with the issues facing the country. His answer when asked about running in 2020, probably not. Let's look at your headlines right now on this Friday morning. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
I don't know if that was in the prompter. I think he just kind of ad-libbed that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jillian. Well, we do know from the books that have been written, apparently Joe Biden was Barack Obama's #1 replacement for Barack Obama. And then Joe Biden said, I'm just not going to do it, my son and everything else. And so then the president went around and started talking to Elizabeth Warren. And she said, no, this is not my year. And then they wound up settling on Hillary Clinton. Well, his third choice.
But in Shatter, they do say that Biden, when he was really thinking about giving this one last run, he couldn't believe nobody was really supporting him at the end.
When we all thought that Comey was going to indict her, everyone was wondering who was going to take the place of her.
It would have been him.
And it would have been him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe they're regretting that.
You think?
Right.
Maybe a little. Meanwhile, coming up, remember when President Obama traveled the world apologizing for America, some say?
The United States will be willing to acknowledge past errors where those errors have been made. We've at times been disengaged, and at times we've sought to dictate our terms.
So what can we expect from President Trump?
Not
his
that.
trip today? That's next.
And the mainstream media comparing the White House to the Kremlin. Yeah, that's the Time magazine cover. Please don't buy it.
Yet. Not yet.
In America, there's a failure to appreciate Europe's leading role in the world. There have been times where America has shown arrogance and been dismissive, even derisive. The United States is still working through some of our own darker periods in our history. The United States will be willing to acknowledge past errors where those errors have been made. We've at times been disengaged, and at times we've sought to dictate our terms.
There you have some sound bites from 2009 and President Barack Obama's so-called apology tour by some. Meanwhile, today at 2:10 this afternoon, from Joint Base Andrews, President Trump takes off for his first overseas trip. So how should he make it different from President Obama's apology tour just 120 days into his administration? Here to discuss is conservative filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza, joins us today from Houston. Dinesh, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Obviously, this president's message is going to be much different than the last president's message, right?
I certainly hope so. With Obama, you got this spectacle, tragic as well as comic, of a leader who was elected by Americans for America, nevertheless pretending to a kind of Olympian detachment from America. It's almost like Obama was standing outside America, lecturing America about its own sins and promising to be a presidential curb on America's behavior. I think with Trump, I hope we see the anti-Obama, which is a president who is confidently willing to assert American ideals and American interests, a president who asserts that American exceptionalism is not incompatible with American universalism. And what I mean by that is that the American recipe, although devised here, invented here by the founders, is nevertheless a recipe that can bring prosperity and happiness to other parts of the world.
Dinesh, you got to figure the President of the United States is going to be happy to get the heck out of town after, for the most part, 120 days of the mainstream media and many on the left just talking about Russia, 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 which we knew right after the election back in November, that was going to be their storylines, that the Russians stole the election. And now we got a special counsel, that is to say, to continue to look into this for perhaps years. So the Democrats got what they want, and the president now is getting out of town. And I got a feeling he's not going to mention Russia one time unless he's talking about that country up there.
Well, I do think that we see from what's been happening here at home that the main force of opposition to Trump and the Republicans does not actually come from the Democratic Party. It comes from Hollywood and the media and academia. These sort of cultural weapons that the left has, they're deploying with full force against Trump. I think the appointment of the special counsel was a mistake. The Republicans naively hope that by segregating this to one corner, they can somehow keep it confined. And I think, on the contrary, this will be a constant a vehicle to bash Trump and try to interrupt the rest of his agenda.
You never know. All right, Dinesh, thank you very much for joining us today in Texas.
My pleasure.
You bet. All right. Meanwhile, President Trump vowing to solve the health crisis at the VA, and now he's enlisting the Energy Department to help. Energy Secretary Rick Perry is leading the charge, and he joins us live next.
We have some quick headlines. Listen to this story. A lifelong Cubs fan is dead after falling over a railing as he was leaving Wrigley Field in Chicago. Richard Garrity rushed to the hospital after dropping 5 to 7 feet and then landing on his head. The 42-year-old at the game for a company outing. And another tragic fall, this one from a Ferris wheel. 2 women and a 7-year-old boy are seriously injured after they plunged 20 feet from a ride at a festival in Washington State. Their cart somehow came loose. The group was dumped out. They were hitting the ride on their way to the ground, unfortunately. Helicopters had to airlift them to the hospital. The incident is now under investigation.
All right, the number of leaks under President Trump is on the rise. We don't know where they're coming from. They could be coming from the inside.
So how can the president plug the leaks?
Well, here to weigh in on this is Secretary of the U.S. Department of Energy, Rick Perry. Governor Perry, good to see you this morning.
Ainsley, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. We are great. How do you think the president can stop all of these leaks? What needs to happen?
Well, number one, have a cadre of people around you that are loyal, that believe in your philosophy, want to go where you want to go. And, you know, those, I'll be pretty blunt about it, those that want to govern through leaking, they'll go to work somewhere else.
I know, but who are they? And you've been in charge of a state that's the size of most countries. How do you stop it quickly? Can you offer advice to do that?
Well, again, I think having people that you know are going to be loyal to you, and that's you know, that is something that is the advice that I would give, is that have people that are truly loyal to you, to your vision. The president knows who those individuals are, and sort it through, and again, ask people, you know, what is in the best interest of America.
Sure.
And if out gossiping, passing along leaks is your idea of patriotism, I greatly disagree with you. Find another place to work.
Sure, it's good advice, but Governor, the president is in a pickle. It was just about a year ago, Donald Trump, who was starting to lead in the polls and eventually would win the presidency, he didn't have that many people on his team. And so his White House, a lot of the people in his White House worked on other campaigns. So you got people who have not always been aligned with Donald Trump. Maybe they don't like Donald Trump in one fashion or another because they were working for somebody else running for president, some guy like you or Paul Ryan, Scott Walker or somebody else. I'm just throwing those out there, a million different names. Or you've got people in the permanent government, like over at the State Department or the NSA. You hope would never leak, and we hope they don't. But you've got those people as well in the deep state, which you read the papers, it sounds like they're leaking.
Well, again, I don't know where all the leaks come from, but if you care about this country, you need to help it move forward. This idea that you know, a leak a day, the media obviously is greatly interested in, a lot of the media, let me put it that way, in driving that narrative. The president will sort it out. He has gone to the American people time after time and said, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to reform our tax code. We're going to get rid of Obamacare. We're going to get this country economically headed in the right direction, and we're going to make America secure and lead the world again. That's what this trip to the Middle East will reinforce. He is going to own those headlines, if you will, and I think set a very clear path forward for America being back in that position of leading the world, our friends in Saudi Arabia and Israel, other Middle Eastern countries, Jordan, standing up with him, and I think sending a powerful message of America's strength, this president's strength, and this president's focus.
You talk about making sure that you can trust the people that are working in the White House. He mentioned yesterday Senator Lieberman as the possible pick, as top pick for the FBI. Can he be trusted? I mean, that was kind of shocking to me, knowing that he was a Democrat, then he became an independent. I know that he did endorse John McCain when he was running for president, but he also endorsed Hillary Clinton just a few months ago.
Well, I try to remind people Ronald Reagan was a Democrat once. I was a Democrat once. So that doesn't necessarily take you off the board. Loyalty isn't a partisan issue. Loyalty is an issue that you either have in your character or you don't. I would suggest that the president is pretty good about analyzing who's going to be loyal to him and his philosophy. So whoever he decides upon, and I don't have any inside information that he's made a final pick. My bet is he probably hadn't. He's talking to a lot of folks, as he does. and he will make a choice that is loyal to him, loyal to the philosophy that he has of making this country great again.
Great. We have received a leak that apparently the Departments of Energy and Veterans Affairs are going to team up to help use some of your supercomputers to figure out how to make our veterans healthier. Could you explain that to us?
Not a leak. That is a full-on blasted-out press release story. As you all know, my interest in veterans go back to a substantial, lengthy time in my background to where a young man who came and lived with us with post-traumatic stress, with traumatic brain injury, the challenges that you have from being at war through all those many years. That has manifested itself, and as the governor, looking for the different ways to help these veterans. As I've ended up at the Department of Energy, working with